The Broncos announced on Wednesday that Russell Wilson will be benched for the remainder of the season. The Broncos will likely be turning to Jason Stidham in Wilson's place. The move has NFL followers speculating Wilson's time in Denver is over. Per The Athletic, the Broncos reached out to Wilson's team in October to try to work out an agreement to waive the injury guarantee in Wilson's contract. That guarantee triggers $37 million if Wilson is on the injury report on March 17th. Another trigger that happens on March 17th is Russell Wilson's 2025 salary becomes fully guaranteed if he's still on the roster. Here are the two most likely options available to the Denver Broncos. The Broncos release Russell Wilson before March 17th, which wouldn't save the Broncos any money. They'd actually take a loss of $49.6 million. Option number one, which is the most likely, is that they could designate Russell Wilson as a post-June 1st release, meaning the Broncos don't take a cap hit in 2024, other than the $39 million that they have to pay either way, but they push the $49.6 million hit to 2025. Brock Purdy falls out of the MVP conversation. Who does that elevate? San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy had his worst game to date, throwing 4 interceptions in the crushing 33-19 defeat on Christmas night. Coming into the game, Brock Purdy was viewed by many as the frontrunner for the MVP award. This was the kind of game that tanks MVP considerations, especially on the nationally televised stage. So that begs the question, who was elevated by Purdy's blunder? Number 3, Josh Allen. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen's MVP stock has elevated in many circles over the past 5 weeks. While I personally can't see a guy with 15 interceptions to 27 touchdowns winning the award, it's hard to imagine supporters not pointing to the fact that Allen's worst game this year was all the way back in week 1, and even in that game, he didn't throw 4 interceptions. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. This one's pretty obvious. Not only was Lamar Jackson the guy slinging the ball for the team intercepting Purdy, but other than 1 early interception, Lamar played a solid game, adding to his collection of reliable performances in 2023. BetMGM now has Lamar Jackson as the favorite to win MVP. And the number 1 player whose stock elevated by Brock Purdy's poor performance against the Ravens is Christian McCaffrey. CMC wasn't discussed as a likely MVP candidate until Brock Purdy himself brought it up. And since then, McCaffrey's done nothing to indicate he's slowing down. Even in the losing effort to the Ravens, McCaffrey still rushed for over 100 yards and a touchdown and leads the league in rushing yards. Joe Flacco's revenge game, or not. Cleveland Browns will host the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football, marking the first opportunity quarterback Joe Flacco will have for revenge on his former team. Flacco played for the Jets in each of the last 2 seasons, but wasn't invited to return to the team last offseason. Nor was he invited to join the team after Aaron Rodgers' Week 1 injury, despite poor play from replacement Zach Wilson. Flacco told reporters he had no hard feelings towards the Jets, stating that he enjoyed his time there, but was happy to be with Cleveland now. The Browns will play for the opportunity to clinch a postseason berth, something they haven't done since 2020. That all begs the question though, what's next for Joe Flacco? Here are the top 3 possibilities. Number 3, Flacco returns as a backup to a team with a young quarterback. It's unlikely that team would be the Ravens. At this point, Lamar Jackson doesn't need a mentor that he's already learned from. It's more likely that Joe goes to a team that's starting over at quarterback, like the Patriots, Seahawks, Raiders, Commanders, or Broncos. Number 2, Flacco retires. Even if the Browns win a Super Bowl this year, it could be tempting to ride off into the sunset. The most likely next step for Joe Flacco is that he'll return as somebody's bridge quarterback. With QB-needy teams like the Seahawks, Commanders, Falcons, Patriots, and Broncos, it's more likely that one of those teams would be willing to grab Flacco to serve as their starter as a rookie develops behind them. Here are all of the official playoff clinching scenarios for the AFC for Week 17 excluding ties. The Baltimore Ravens are already clinched for a playoff spot. They can clinch the AFC North and #1 seed with a win over the Dolphins. The Ravens also clinch the AFC North if the Browns lose to the Jets. The Buffalo Bills clinch a playoff spot with a win plus any of the 2 following teams losing: the Steelers to the Seahawks, the Bengals to the Chiefs, or the Jaguars to the Panthers. If any 2 of those teams lose, plus a Bills win, then the Bills would be in the playoffs. The Bills can also clinch a playoff spot with a win, plus Bengals, Texans, and Colts all lose. The Browns clinch a playoff spot with a win over the Jets on Thursday night, or a Steelers loss, or a Bills loss, or a Jaguars loss, or a Texans loss. The Jaguars clinch the AFC South with a win, plus a Colts loss, plus a Texans loss. The Chiefs can clinch the AFC West with a win, or losses by the Raiders and Broncos. The Dolphins can clinch the AFC East with a win, or a Bills loss. Here are all of the official playoff clinching scenarios for the NFC for Week 17. The Rams clinch a playoff spot with a win over the Giants, plus a Seahawks loss to the Steelers. The Eagles clinch the NFC East with a win over the Cardinals, plus a Cowboys loss to the Lions. The 49ers clinch the #1 seed in the NFC with a win over the Commanders, plus a Lions loss, plus an Eagles loss. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers clinch the NFC South with a win over the Saints. Brian Daboll is done with Tommy DeVito. The New York Giants benched quarterback Tommy DeVito before halftime in the Christmas Day loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants started the second half with journeyman quarterback Tyrod Taylor under center. Tyrod played well down the stretch and ultimately gave the Giants a chance to beat one of the better teams in football. It was reported on Wednesday that Tyrod Taylor will get the start against the Rams on Sunday.